Welcome to Real Talk with Micah Smith. Yes, that's a little bit of a different name than what you've seen and heard here before. You may notice our friends at Colorado Public Radio are not here with me today. Real Talk has been a proud collaboration between Denver7 and CPR News for more than 2.5 years, and we are incredibly grateful for the important conversations we've had together. However, as public media and Denver7 navigate a changing media landscape, CPR will be stepping away from Real Talk and focusing on their newsroom. We are still news partners and we wish them the absolute best. At the same time, Denver7 remains committed to our newsroom, and Real Talk is still an extension of the important journalism you see every day during our newscasts. As of this episode, Real Talk with Micah Smith will continue as a Denver7 production. Though our partnership with CPR has come to a close, our mission remains the same: to elevate underrepresented voices and explore the issues that matter most across our state. We want to thank Nathan Fernando Frescas and the entire CPR team for helping lift up our mission, and we're excited to keep it going with you right here on Denver7. With that in mind, each week we'll continue to have a real talk about issues impacting underrepresented people across Colorado and amplifying voices you may not always hear. In this episode, we want to take a look back on some of our favorite moments from Real Talk, like our visit to the Chinatown exhibit at History Colorado in downtown Denver earlier this year. Through the collections and artifacts on display, visitors uncovered history right here at home, while also learning about the work to continue preserving cultures for the future.
There are efforts happening in our community to celebrate and preserve cultures while also supporting family-owned businesses. So joining us now is Mimi Luong from Denver's Far East Center on Federal Boulevard. Mimi, thank you so much for being here for this Real Talk.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
You manage the center, which is known as the heart of the Little Saigon Business District, and was recently recognized here in Denver. Tell us more about the milestone that happened recently.
Well, we just got recognized as the very first Asian plaza to be a historical designated landmark.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
And so what does that mean to have that designation, the importance of that for the community?
Well, it's huge for the community because it really shows the recognition and the hard work of, what our community has went through, and the hardship of my parents and family members to build a community, a space, a hub for their people,
Yeah.
Mimi, you're a second-generation small business owner. Talk to us about the importance of making sure owners are supported and how that plays into preserving the community.
So I work a lot alongside with the city and trying to get resources for our community members that may not speak English as well. So maybe English is their second language. So we help them find some resources for some grants or loans or something during like COVID. Let's just say we were able to help them with that. Our community, we try to work with the cities to help make that area more vibrant, more inviting, and bringing more tourism and just a space for others to come and enjoy this cultural area.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about, for people who may not live in Denver, about the Far East Center. It is on Federal Boulevard. You see it clearly as you drive past. But for someone who maybe lives outside of the area, talk a little bit about it.
So the Far East Center itself has over 22 businesses in there, and it has restaurants, bakeries, gift shops, grocery, and other things like if you need to get your hair cut or acupuncture and your taxes done. So there's a lot of different businesses in the plaza, so it's a one-stop shop place. But it's not just only Far East Center. The whole Little Saigon corridor has like true authentic Vietnamese food and Chinese food and Thai, and so there's all sorts of cultural businesses owned by mom and pop shops, small business owners that are, trying to make their daily
like your parents.
Yes.
And like you, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know partnerships are really key to making the Far East Center function. Can you tell us about the partnership efforts and even events that benefit the area?
So my mom has always been like the spearhead of like starting the Lunar New Year. It's coming up 35 years of hosting Lunar New Year for the community, and it started out as just a small celebration for her customers and friends, and then now it has grown into a huge community event that brings tens and thousands of people into the plaza. And not only that, we have also partnered with other community members to host the Mid-Autumn Festival, Saigon Azteca, and the Mile High Trunk or Treat. So we try to like bring in all these like different celebrations to keep the area vibrant and welcoming.
And Little Saigon, naturally people think, the Vietnamese community, but is it more than that? Is it a melting pot of multiple cultures as well in that area?
It's a melting pot of multiple cultures. There's a huge Latino community, so there's like a huge Mexican community that hosts like Cinco de Mayo, Dia de los Muertos and stuff. But on top of that, it's a melting pot for like not just only Vietnamese, there's Chinese, Thai, Cambodian, like it's a huge community. And I would say that whole strip from Federal and Alameda down to Mississippi is like this huge melting pot of cultures.
I love it. There's always work that goes into preserving cultures. How do you see that work evolving and continuing to grow the community?
I would say educating the community, letting them learn more about these different holidays and celebrations and culture traditions, food, and all of that. We hosted a bunch of different workshops in the community and classes and storytelling, stuff like that. It helps educate them, but at the same time, letting them experience it and bringing them into this new area and checking out like Mid-Autumn Festival as like a international street food night market. So you're gonna try like a bunch of amazing street food from all these different cultures, So it's a space to just come and try everything different.
Again, we spoke with Mimi back in May during Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And coming up, we're hearing voices that have been pushed to the perimeter in the discussion surrounding the legalization of psilocybin or psychedelic mushrooms. Indigenous voices. This is a conversation that was tough and was centered around cultural misappropriation. So I want you to stay with us. You won't want to miss it. You're watching Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. In case you're just tuning in, Real Talk has long been a collaboration between Denver7 and Colorado Public Radio. But the changing media landscape has called for CPR and Denver7 to focus on our respective newsrooms. We remain news partners, but Real Talk will now be a Denver7 production with me, Micah Smith, as your host. This episode, we're revisiting some of our favorite moments of Real Talk as we prepare to enter into a new era of our show. And now I'd like to go back to our episode on the legalization of psilocybin. Several members of indigenous communities expressed their frustration with the recent regulation of psychedelic mushrooms. The conversation had some tense moments, but resulted in some true insight into how Native communities can be unfairly painted as a monolith, and how recent regulation has had some harmful impacts. Here's part of that conversation. So joining us now is Angela Beers and KB from the Native Coalition, along with many other members. I want to thank all of you so much for being with us here today. So what are your thoughts on who can currently access this medicine?
It's always been accessible, and I'm not sure which medicine you're speaking of, but the one in particular that I'm speaking of, it's always been accessible.
And what medicine is that?
That would be peyote.
We briefly talked at the top of the show, but how was psilocybin traditionally used by indigenous people?
That would be a question for the Mazatecans and Central American indigenous people. We've reached out and we don't have any representative, and I am not privy to speak for that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about current uses? And I want to be clear, I don't want to paint different communities with a blanket brush, and I understand that that's something that happens often, and I recognize that. But if you could speak from your own experience and from your own background about how it's used in your experience, I think that would be really helpful for our viewers and listeners.
It's not my medicine, so I can't speak for it, unfortunately.
I think, kind of what KB is saying here is that this whole process has been rushed and move so fast that there's a lot of people that have been left out. And we look at Indigenous people, the diversity of us. We're not all the same. We have different traditions that we try to maintain, and different medicines. And we don't mix medicines, and some do. So there's a lot of those things that are going on within our own communities, and with this sort of legislation pushing all that to the forefront, it's erasure at its finest. It's threats to commodify something such as psilocybin, which the West thinks of it as a party drug, as something to get altered, to get high on, and more recently to heal from trauma. Those are aspects of it, and the way that traditional folks have maintained that to some degree, that I will speak to some amount on, is that it's been held in respect and high regard. There's a lot of things that go into that are sacred, that should not be shared on a TV show. It's people aren't going to understand that, and you understand the importance of that through the relationship with the plant medicine or the fungi, for example. And so psilocybin was the first sacrament put on the table. It was the first sacrifice. And that's something that people need to look at and consider when they're moving forward with a sense of entitlement and access.
And I heard the word rushed. I heard the word, silencing and things like that. How do you lift those voices up now? How do you, because this has been something the voters are saying this is happening, right? How do we lift up those voices of people who are here saying, this has been here all along, and this seems like something that wasn't done in a way that pleases everyone? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that seems like a huge concern.
Well, first of all, we want to acknowledge that we're privileged to be in Denver. We're urban natives. And there are a lot of Native voices being left out. And so we're showing up for the different communities that we've built relations with. And this is a humble way, so I feel very uncomfortable being here. I want to express that. It's not about me. It's a way of life. And what the state did was they failed to enact the prior informed consent, which tribal nations are their own sovereign nations. There's federal law, ARFA, American Religious Freedom Act, that protects our medicines and our sacred items. So, those things were disregarded. This is commodification, this is about money, and there are some unjust things happening because, like she said, you stand to erase, you stand to completely annihilate ways of life. And so I want to say that with a humble regard, but all due respect, it's really upsetting.
Is there an equitable path forward? And if so, what does that look like? And I don't mean when it comes to creating an industry, I just mean now that this has been enacted, what would, in your opinion, be an equitable path forward?
Yeah, what's equity? The simple fact that this bill was passed without the people who are closest to the medicines, all of the medicines that were put on this bill, which only one grows here, it's inherently inequitable. So we're already working at a disadvantage. But people want their access. They want their healing, and people need healing. People do need healing, but people need to assess their relationship with these medicines, their intentions with these medicines, and the people that have protected them, have stewarded them, have kept them in these ways, so that way we're here. We're here because of Native and Indigenous folks, because those traditions have been kept so sacredly. And I don't think there is a way to be equitable at this point, but we're looking at reducing harm. We're looking at how you can, whoever the powers that be, empower those who have the closest relationships with these medicines. This is an opportunity to do that, to really empower the people that have been disempowered, have been harmed by the drug war.
Coming up, as we continue this meaningful trip down memory lane, I want to take us back to an episode that has received statewide recognition. Our discussion on 50 Years of Pride brought two completely different generations together to talk about the progress made and what still needs to be done. This is Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. This episode, we've been taking a look back at some of our favorite moments from our show as we honor our news partners at Colorado Public Radio who are stepping away, and we move forward with Real Talk as a Denver7 production. Now, this next episode earned us an Emmy nomination. It was a show we dedicated to the 50th anniversary of Pride here in Denver in 2024. So we brought together the Grand Marshal of Pride that year, Christopher Sloan, who also goes by the name Christy Lane. Now, Chris is comfortable using Chris or Christy and goes by all pronouns. We also brought in Aaron Michaels and Ileana Trujillo with Youth Scene, a nonprofit working to help support queer and transgender youth of color with mental health and wellness support for both individuals and their families. So here is part of that powerful conversation.
I want to start with this. I think it is rare to have both younger and older generations of the LGBTQ community in the same room at the same time for a discussion. Christopher, what was it like to hear Aaron and Ileana share their stories?
Wonderful. We, from my generation, were looking for a world where the future, our children could be who they were, who they are, and do it honestly and not have to worry about the bullying that you've experienced. To see that you're strong enough to survive without having to lean on us. We did okay, giving you enough room to be you, and I think that's the most important thing I can say about that.
Yeah. Ileana and Aaron, what did you think about the things that Christopher shared?
Well, I love hearing, stories like that, because you saw it all happen before your eyes. And it's definitely a learning experience for me to hear, but then also lets me know that I have a lot more life to live and a lot more things to experience. And, there's change coming.
Yeah, when New York happened, that was New York's issue. Our issue here was just to be seen. We didn't really understand the politics. We, in the second Pride, started educating every night of the week in a different club about Stonewall and what had happened. Most of us didn't even know the history until the second Pride of what had happened in New York. So our endeavors to be inclusive, we misstepped, we said the wrong things, we did the wrong things. It took us 5 years to include lesbian in the title of the Gay and Lesbian Community Center of Colorado. So we didn't understand the divisions. We didn't understand our youth because we didn't see them. We were locked into 20-year-olds around us, and that's what we saw. And then all of a sudden we realized we didn't do anything for our seniors and who came forward. Yeah. History doesn't begin with me. It begins with the generation before and before and before.
Yeah. And Ileana, you're talking about how you perform now and you have that sense of pride. Can you talk a little bit about how you feel going into Pride and being able to perform and being able to be your authentic, truthful self?
It is definitely an experience. It's not one I ever thought I would have, Growing up being queer, it's not something that everybody thinks is gonna happen to them. Like, you don't think, oh, you're just gonna be yourself, and then all of a sudden one day you get to project it in such a wide way, and just basically, like I was saying earlier, just to scream at the top of your lungs, this is who I am, this is what I do.
Yeah.
And it's just an amazing experience to get to feel it.
To see that they have the opportunity to be free and be who they are and represent themselves the way they are, it's touching.
Aaron or Ileana, do you have any questions that you would like to ask Christopher? I want to make sure that you all have a chance to have a conversation.
How did you feel at your first Pride?
Because I'm an organizational infrastructure person, I got to make sure everybody is okay. They were my children. Because my name was on there, I wanted to make sure everybody was okay. So there wasn't much of an emotional response. It was a mother's response. It was take care of the kids.
I just wanted to ask, how does it feel to get to see like all of your hard work paying off, to see like our generation getting to be open and free about ourselves?
You know, every journey starts with a single step, and what happened with Pride was a single step, and the ramifications over the last 50 years, it is overwhelming to see how we've become sensitive to the needs of undefined needs of our people. That's where we are now, and if we can celebrate, that makes me real proud.
Christopher, we have a few minutes left, but I want to make sure that you're able to ask Aaron and Ileana questions as well.
We're leaving a lot of stuff on your shoulders because you're the protectors of the future. And I kind of want to know, do you feel open enough to accept your farthest enemy, somebody with an opinion so different from you? Are you open enough to understand that we need their input because they can help define our future?
Absolutely. I mean, like, everything comes from understanding, you know? You have to understand someone else's point of view, you know, to learn and grow. One thing about me is like with the way I identify and everything, I don't always want that in the forefront, you know, because I'm an artist, I'm a performer. For me, being queer is not my whole identity. I want people to mostly just see me as a human.
There have been so many artificial rules. You can't be an athlete and be gay, or you can't be a race car driver if you're gay, or you can't do this, or you can't love because you're gay. Really, who wrote these rules and why? It's foolish.
Honestly, I get a little emotional looking back because I am just so honored that so many of you have trusted us with your stories and with your voice. And for that, I am so grateful. And that is this week's episode of Real Talk with Micah Smith. We are so thankful that every week you choose to tune in for this real talk on issues that impact Coloradans who are often overlooked. We hope you'll stick with us, and if there's a real talk you would like to have, please let me know. You can send me an email at micah.smith@denver7.com. In the meantime, you can find all of our shows on denver7.com/realtalk. Have a great day.